Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. I'm Josh and this is our map and image creation. And this is where we go over all of the image related news as well as do tips and tutorials on how to use Fantasy Grounds Unity's map making features. Not just map making, but it's kind of just image making features. You can do all kinds of different things inside of there, and including like making handouts and so on and so forth. So it's a very robust and broad tool, so I come on here every Saturday and try to demonstrate that to the best of my abilities. Great, so we just had two new art packs released last month, one for Eastern Buildings and one for an additional Fantasy Buildings, which is super exciting. Lots of cool stuff in there to make some interesting places. I'll be showing those off. Well, we might use some of it today, but we're going to continue on creating the map that we started last week. We were doing a World War II bunker. Also, right around the corner, we're working on new dice packs, which is super exciting. So that should be getting pushed out here relatively soon. I'm not exactly sure the exact dates, but we're kind of getting in the finishing thralls of getting that finished. Which is great, and that's another super exciting thing. Lots of cool like particle effects and different dice skins, and many more coming out in the future. So very exciting there. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it for all of our art-related stuff. There's a whole bunch of new changes that are coming to the dynamic lighting and line of sight. Some more streamlining there to get that in a little bit more of an efficient way of handling things, which is very exciting too. And I think that's it. So we can jump right into it, begin to make and work on some of these maps here. Hey, Drake Takes. So let's see here. I think I actually saved down here. Yep, here we are. And this is what we had kind of started. We're going to be doing all of the finishing touches on this today. Should be pretty exciting. Doing all of the different elements to it. We're going to do some adjustments here, and we're going to bring this to kind of the forefront. If we look over here into the the way that we set up our lighting systems already, we kind of came up with a good way to hide everything that is underneath here, and attaching lights to it so that when we actually hide this, then we get our really cool atmospheric environment where they're kind of uncovering this statue deep underneath here. We can turn off our lights here for a moment so we can kind of see this as it looks without any of those things. We're going to go back in. I was using an adjustment layer to create all of the shadows. But I think what we can do is actually change that. We're going to do that. We're going to paint in the shadows. I'm going to have a little bit more control with that. Make things a little bit easier for us to kind of manipulate. We could still do that with an adjustment layer. But I think we'd have to do it with several different adjustment layers. And the reason for that being is that the way that the lighting system works, it's very additive. And so we're going to get much more drastic kind of shadows in some of the lit areas. We'll have a little bit more control if we just kind of paint them in, I think. So we're going to do that. And also add in some additional kind of elements. I want to do something on the top as well, so that we have this multi-layered map here. You can kind of go from an interesting top level into an interesting bottom level, right? Make sure that we maximize all of those different areas. So let's jump right in here. So I hope everyone's having a great week. Lots of good games going. Lots of great map making happening. And we can jump over, and I'm going to jump into the painting tab here. I'm going to go right onto the let's see here. What do we have here? Oh, this is all this stuff. So yeah, let's use this layer. I'm going to use this layer to paint in some of these shadows. Happy Saturday, Spencer. I'm going to go into my stamp tool. I'm going to grab this little guy. I use this very often. I'm going to hold down R, G, and B, and I'm going to make this black. And I'm going to hold down A and lower down that opacity. And I can also hold Control and use my mouse wheel to change its size. And I'm just going to paint in some of these shadows. I'm actually going to do some larger ones from these like corners too. And we can turn this off, and let's make this a little bit more oblong, something like this. Then I can just kind of stamp in a couple of longer shadows in behind these. Oh, the industrial theme? Yeah, I just did some maintenance on it. There was a small issue, so. Oh, 4 hours of pressure cleaning. Yeah, that sounds like map material. Nap material. And I'm also going to do a little bit. I'm going to lower down my opacity here a little bit more. I'm going to do a little bit of shadows on the front of these as well, just for a little bit of the ambient occlusion as it kind of comes out from little areas. I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to add in some debris underneath some of the stuff as well. This is a little bit too static, I think. I'm even going to do a little bit on the inside of this box. Make these feel as though they're kind of down in there. If you guys have any suggestions on things that you'd like to see add into the app, please let me know. Always open to this round again, get a bit larger, and again I'm going to here. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of moving around and clicking. See, we can create some really nice subtle kind of effects there. On this, I'm going to do some larger ones as well. Remember, we have lights in here, so if we turn our light system back on, these shadows aren't really going to add much until our players come in with their own light source. That's why we're going to do this kind of like in this area here. Kind of build up some of this a little bit more. Make this have a little bit more shape to it. And I think we'll do like a little bit of shadow off. We'll do a little bit behind some of this stuff. Scaffolding elements that we kind of have set up here. We want to do like some cast shadows. One of the cool things that we can kind of do is just this. So wish. We'll actually quite so intrusive there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, yep, we're gonna do, this is kind of like a World War II bunker. We started it last week, and we're gonna be building it up here adding some elements. We did like these more modern kind of crates and whatnot. So we're going to do, we're kind of using like some of the other elements as like makeshift World War II-esque. We use these like sacks as like sandbags and whatnot. I always find it pretty satisfying to use things in ways that oftentimes might not expect. I'm going to do a little bit of. We come back down to our trench. Remember, we actually created fill element. I'm going to bring this right to the edges. Pull this in a little bit like this. Yeah, right? Yeah. I think I'm going to be working on an actual World War II map pack. It's kind of inspired me a little bit here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up into this layer, and I'm just going to let's this back out, and then I'm going to just fade this out a little bit more, a little bit more gradual. Add a little bit of shadow too. Give this a kind of just add a little bit around these areas here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some additional shadow along this edge here. And again, I'm just going to greatly exaggerate the size of this, elongate it. And then I can just kind of stamp out a couple like this. You don't have to be super exact or precise in any particular way. I think what we should do is move those. Maybe down here, something like this. Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that when we first started creating this, I realized that we don't have any good substitute for like barbed wire or anything along those lines. So I might make some. Then while I'm at it, I might as well just do a whole art pack. Do lots of cool stuff. I'm thinking about creating a brush for trenches that are all built in with lots of different little elements to it. Yeah, foxholes, tanks, all kinds of different vehicles and artillery. That would be super fun. Great. So now what I'm going to do is let's open up our assets now. We have a whole bunch of ones that we kind of grabbed from before down here. So if we go and we grab something like this, right, we can do, let's go down onto our ground layer here. We can do like these little exploded holes and whatnot. And we're probably going to want to put some up here as well. See that what we actually did here, and let me explain this a little bit here. We divided up our lighting system. take advantage of the additive nature of it. Because we've added this light here, and if I go into the lighting system, see that this particular light here. Now what this does is it overcasts on top of the other elements. So if we were, when we hide this, then you get to see all of those other elements. Let's turn our lighting system on here so you can kind of see how this works. So we have this, and what it's doing is it's adding to that environment, right? So when we hide it, then it's going to hide these light elements as well that we have above that's overshadowing this. Now what we do have to be careful of is that, and this is one of the reasons why we separated our walls here, is that as a player moves across this, the wall system is always going to interact with the player. So we're going to have to hide this layer when this one is active. But we're going to set this up into particular folders, which will allow us to easily kind of, I'm going to go onto this layer now. We're going to add in some elements here. And again, we can, by having the aspect log ratio turned off, we can make some adjustments to this, right? And this is going to look like different shapes and whatnot, so it's going to be less repetitive for us. And we have some other ones as well here. I think we'll make this one a less opaque here. We actually have kind of like cannonball things drop right in here as well. And then we can add some nice shadow and elements that so it's going to look like down into the ground here. Let's go into our, I'm going to actually grab some like rocky kind of debris and whatnot. I want to put some stuff, here we have like these built-in kind of rocks that go along inside of this trench. Yeah, layer management. It's a constant struggle. This, lower down our opacity. Well, one of the great things about that kind of stuff, shadowed out. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm just kind of go along this lip, make it feel as though raised up in the ground. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And I'm going to type in rocks. And this is going to bring up all the different rock groupings and whatnot. And I'm going to grab some that I think will work well for like debris, maybe something like this. And that's in the desert map pack. Some from the western. Here's one from abandoned places. Yeah, there were no layers in classic. That's right. I think that there was an extension at one point that maybe we'll grab this one. There was an extension at one point that kind of pseudo made some layers in classic. think that that needs to be a little bit darker, I think. I'm actually going to just hold down RG and B and darken these up a little bit. Maybe something like these. Smaller here. Now I'm going to lower down the opacity. Subtle variation. Doing this to create a little bit of additional kind of texture. We want it to feel as though that there is action that's happened, right? Like things that have gone on, a more believable environment. Might even want to do some additional. Have this one. And I'm going to hold down RG and we could drop. I think we'll move like over. And then we can go into our trench as well. I'm going to drop some here, add some kind of elements. Because we did our shadows on a higher layer, then this will all kind of work. All work together here. Oh, that's great, Helio. Yeah, you might want to reach out to one of the support guys. You can either jump into the Discord and do that, or send an email. I don't really handle any of that kind of stuff, but happy to talk to you. That one's a little bit over to this. You know what else we need? We need to have like some more stuff out through here. So let's type in crate. And we'll grab some of these additional kind of more modern looking crates. Grab one that's a little bit angle here. Yeah, so this will work pretty well to kind of show a little bit more depth as well. See, we can see a little bit of the face of these. It's almost as if they're leaning back a little bit. Great. Spectacular. And maybe we'll grab like some of the open ones. Now let's put this one like right on top here. Then we'll put some sort of cool content. What should we put into this this I think would be a good. Maybe we'll fill it like apples. We can actually probably we probably make him kind of look like shades or maybe something like that. I'm going to grab my little brush again here. And again, I'm going to hold down R, G, and E and make this a little more transparent. I'm just going to do a little bit to this. And I'm actually going to a little. Yeah, something like that. Let's add in a little bit on the front of these. Exaggerate that a little bit. Let's do a little bit on. And I'm also going to do some with rocks here. So go down to this ground level. A little bit coming out from underneath. Nice. And now when we hide our upper level here, see we have this really cool kind of underground area that we can we've set it all up with some really cool lighting and line of sight. So if we want to test it out here, let's go to our flat tracker. We can grab our buddy Bob here. Throw him onto the scene. And we can go into play mode over here. So here we grab a hold of him. Now, the way we have this set up, and let's turn on our top area here. So this is what Bob would see initially as he's kind of moving around here. You can see that this completely covers it up. He can see down into this trench. But once he goes into the trench itself, as you can see here, then everything kind of changes. What we actually get is this area is visible to him, but he cannot now see out of it. When we do this, we can also see into our cave here. As he moves into the area here, you can see that then everything is beginning to work as we anticipate. Looks as though that our transparencies are showing up as white. I'm just going to make a note of that and send that over to Carl. It should actually be the opposite here. But yeah, everything's working properly. Great. Now that we have our this area all kind of set up, let's go into our top mode here. And we can start to build in. I'm going to create a new painting layer, and we're going to just drop this right above here. And this is where we're going to create all of our elements here. So I'm thinking what we're going to do is do like some structures on top. And we can make it very war-torn, right? We're going to make it all dilapidated, and what we can actually do is, excuse me, add into that feeling of the destruction that kind of we want it to. Not only that, we can create an interesting kind of environment up here that to maximize our space here. So cool to be able to do whatever we need to in here and then go also down in and below it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create like a foundation in this area, and I think I'm going to go into the new in buildings. There's some nice fills here for stonework with a little bit of stuff between and whatnot. So what we can do is go back into our painting area here. I'm going to turn off the stroke, flip over to the fill area, and we're just going to load this right in here. Now I'm going to just use like a rectangle, and then I'm going to fade out the edges so that we have like this nice little area over here. But I'm also going to, as you drag this out, we're also going to go into change the shape of this. I don't want it to be just a complete rectangle. So we can do a couple of different things. We can go into the add mode, and then this is just going to add in shapes to it. We can also go into our subtraction mode and remove areas as well. Once we go into our edit fill, we can kind of scroll this around, as you can see here. But we can also hold down F and use our mouse wheel to fade out those edges to make this seem as though it's like there's dirt that kind of encroaches in on it and whatnot. I want this to kind of extend out beyond the area here. And when we switch over to our edit mode, we get these little adjustment boxes that we can drag around points. And these points will allow us to further customize the shape to whatever we want. Maybe we'll do something like this. And we can even go back in, if we think that these slabs are a little bit too large, we can go back over into here, and we can adjust the scale of this, right? We can do that by holding down Control and using our mouse wheel and make that a bit smaller. I think I might even rotate it a little bit as well, just to add a little bit more complexity to it. Maybe not that much, maybe just a little bit of an angle like this. We can also change the colors here. I think I'm gonna get rid of some of that green and pull down. Something like this. That'll work. And then we can start to build up some of these dilapidated walls and whatnot right up here. I'm going to type in stone wall. Make sure we put it into here. And let's just kind of find something that's going to work well for us. I want to do maybe, well, you know what? Let's just go into our abandoned places here. And we have some nice ones that are um, kind of dilapidated here. They have like all kinds of debris on them and whatnot. Maybe we'll go into the second one. A lot more in here. I want it to have a little bit of a modern feel to it, but also be pretty easy for us to and you can use these, like even though this is a curb brush, I would oftentimes use wall as well, as long as it fits the aesthetic of what I'm trying to create. This one looks pretty good. Let's grab that one. So again, we're going to turn off our fill, switch over to our stroke here. I'm going to grab and drop that right in there. We have our wall kind of all set up here. I'm going to use this wall in a couple of different ways here. I'm going to show you guys how you can change it completely. We can stamp this out. We can draw it out. I'm going to draw out a couple of different shapes here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So let's go like maybe half the size. Yeah, something like this. And I'm just going to click and I'm going to drag it out. And you see here what will, oh, I'm in subtraction mode. And we don't want that. So let's come back in here. We want to make sure that we're in normal mode here. And I'm just going to drag out a couple of different shapes like this. And we'll do some interior elements as well. And if you hold down Shift, you'll only go in 45, 90-degree elements. And if you hold down Control, you'll snap to the grid. I think we're just going to drag it out to something like that. I'll double click to end that. And what I'm actually going to do here, I'll show you a neat little trick that you can kind of work with here, is I'm going to go into, I'm going to turn off the stroke, and I'm going to grab the same image, right? I believe it's this one. And I'm actually going to fill out a section. Let's do it like here towards the front of it. I'll do a little section here. And this is going to seem a little bit weird at first. But what I can do is I can come into this area over here, right? And I'm gonna break it down to approximately the same size. And then I can move this in. Now you might be wondering why I'm going to do this as a kind of a fill element here. Because now what I can actually do, let me just, is I can erase parts out of this and remove elements. So what I'll do is I'll go back into my fill area over here. And now I'm going to go into my subtraction mode. And I can begin to, going to subtract what's beneath it as well. Let's hit Control Z and move that out of the way. So when you're in a situation like that, all you have to do is just grab this, double click on it, and we're going to move it right over here. And then I'm going to make my adjustments to it, and I can move it back. So I'm going to switch it back over here, and we'll erase certain sections of this. We don't have to worry too much if it gets a little bit wonky like this, because all we have to do is come in and make our adjustments. And then we're going to make this kind of an interesting kind of shape. Let's move this here. And we can move this down. And we'll want to move this back to element like this. And then I'll just double click it and put it right back where it was. Yeah, very cool. Well, the other great thing about having this separated between the elements here is we can kind of maneuver these things around. You know what? I think I'm actually going to separate. Let me show you how to. You can do this as well. I'm going to separate um, the walls from the floor element, and I'm going to do that by duplicating this layer. See here, here it is. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my edit mode here, and I'm just going to double click all of the floor element, and I'm just going to hit delete. And then I'm going to, let's move this back down to area down. And I can go onto this one, and I can duplicate, do exactly the same thing, but with all of the wall elements. So now what we have here is we've separated the two. So let's jump in and add in some elements. Again, we're going to do the same kind of stuff. We'll grab some of the like the rocks and things. Maybe we'll build up some sand in some of these corners. This would be a pretty cool like tactical kind of area in here. And we can do lots of stuff with our abandoned place. Let's jump in here and go into our decorations. In here we have all kinds of modern elements, but in a dilapidated state. So we can go into our litter and debris. And this is a great one for this kind of stuff. And let's jump over here. I'm going to grab maybe like these boxes. And I'm going to go onto the bottom layer here. And I'm going to just kind of paint these in and underneath. If they stick out on the other side, I think that's great. We're going to be building out. We'll do all kinds of like little trash and stuff. Which this kind of stuff, Drake is great for doing Fallout. And we get some broken glass. And I'm actually going to lower down the opacity of that. Maybe we'll make it a little bit more. Good. And we can grab some of like papers and stuff. Maybe a couple of like old tires pinned up against the wall. And I'll actually go this layer to do that. And we have nice stuff like this that we can kind of just drop in here. We'll add a whole bunch of texture around. We can even do some like over the top of some. we go into the second one has a lot more industrial type stuff, so we can kind of add in more of these. Well, and then we'll add in like a couple of these themes with moth and whatnot. Maybe we'll do like a little wall mounted. And then we can grab some of these as well. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty good. Why don't we start to add in some shadows and whatnot up here, and I think that that's what really gives it a little bit more dimension. You know, it gives it some more depth to it. And so let's grab our little round brush here. Again, we're going to change its color here and its opacity. And the first thing I'm going to do, let's do it on this lower level. And we'll do a little bit of shadows just kind of like coming out from these corners. Grab another layer here. And then what we'll do is we'll actually add on top as well. And here we can actually, why don't we create an effects layer? We'll do an adjust colors. We'll bring the brightness down here, create a mask. And we'll just kind of draw out some shapes here as well. And we can blur out those edges. And we can adjust quite that dark. What we'll do is we'll group all of this stuff together with this upper ground layer. And that will easily make it interactable so that we can transition between the higher and the lower. So we'll create a new folder here. And we'll call it upper. And we'll grab all of this stuff and we'll drop it right in there. And you can see now that when we hide that, all of that together are our lower elements. Now inside of here as well, what we want to do is, well, let's make sure that we, this is walls. Because what we can do is we can go into either the painting tab and we can duplicate all of the walls as a line of sight. But this is going to be a little bit different. So what I'm actually going to do is I will specifically pick, and then I can duplicate selection as walls. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to select all of the elements that I want, and then I can do this. And that, as you can see, it's going to mess up what we have underneath here quite a lot, which is why we want to kind of separate how all of this is going to work. We're going to have to, excuse me, change some of our parameters here. So what we'll do is when we go into our lighting element over here, these ones, what we want to do is we want to have shadows turned off. And then when we're down below here, we're going to want to turn off all of this stuff underneath. This should see what we got going on. So these lights, I'm going to have to, ones are leaked. Have to change how some of these lights are set up so that we can get this to work properly. Right, so these lights that we have here, we'll have to separate these out. So go into our lighting element here, and I'm just going to grab those. That's our ambient light. So we're going to add it into here. So that, because right now what's happening is the light systems are interacting with the line of sight systems, and we want to change that. And for some reason, toggling casting shadows, so I'm going to have to write that down as well. But we can circumvent that, and we can kind of fix that in a couple of different. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide what's down below. Only going to be working. Turn off all of that stuff. And then what I'll do is we can move into our, we could use ambient lighting probably and create a mask, but that's going to complicate things a little bit, I think. Let's just add in some additional lights in some of these areas, and then we can fix this. Increase the size of this one. And we can put this here. And then we're going to need to add one here. There we go. We might make this one a little bit smaller, right? To make this a little bit more in the dark down there. We have to add in a little bit of extra on our line of sight as well. So let's go over there. And we can do, go to this, these. Like this. And then we can go back into our lighting areas here. I think we can do something like this. It's going to be cool. We'll get these like nice dark shadows down and through. Yeah, like this. Or did I add all of these onto that layer? I probably should have done it there. Yeah, let's separate these out a little bit. Well, I guess that's fine, right? Because when we go inside, no, because we want to have lights on the outside here. Let's do this. I'm gonna grab these. And we're gonna this layer. Yeah, much better. And now what we can do is when we transition from the top down into the bottom, turn this back on down. See, what we'll be able to do is transition down here, and then when we turn this on, we'll get that nice little ambience down here. And what we can do from this is now I can go in and add in on this layer our little light source down below. What we'll actually do is I'm just going to do like a preset for candle, I think. These. And I'm going to grab all of these ones and be able to adjust them all at the same time. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to increase the size here a little bit. Let's go like 4. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Let's go 3 and increase this to 2. But I'm going to change the fall off here, 50, make it a little bit more gradual, and then do the exterior to like this. Then what I can do is, if I wish, I can come in and individually stuff here like this. What I can do is I can come in and individually make some adjustments here. See how they all flicker at exactly the same time? Well, to adjust that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the flicker speed on some of them. So if I do it like this, kind of randomly keep some at 100, some will bring down very low. And now they're going to flicker all at different. So we don't get that same kind of thing here. And we'll do one in the entrance over here. And this one we don't want any flicker. And again, we're going to change the fall offs here. And this is going to be the little bit of ambient light coming in from the outside here. Now when we have the upper area here, you can see that we don't want any of this stuff to be kind of working with it, so we can just turn that off and everything will work as intended. Again, when we actually go through the whole play process, what we'll do is like that our darkness is at. Like it's gone. That's okay. We can easily recreate that. I'm just going to delete it, and then we can go into our, show you guys how I actually did place. We don't want any stroke, and our fill, we're going to do just a color. We're going to just make it black. And then in this little trench area down here, I'm just going to use my line, and I'm just going to click. We want to make sure that we're not in with these. We want to make sure we're not in our delete mode. I always forget. And we can double click like this. Now all we have to do is go into our little area over here, and we can fade out these edges. Oh, there's an undo command. Control Z. Yep, Control Z will undo whatever it is. Done. So yeah, and it will work throughout the entire program. So the text areas and in the painting areas and everything. I use it often. Great. So now let's go into our area over here. So we have this nice little above ground area, and then we have nice little trench that we have set up. And then as we turn off the upper, turn on the down below, we have this nice little interior area here as well. You can see we have some really nice kind of like mood lighting. What we should actually do now, put in some whatever elements that we are going to be using for our. Oh yeah, let's do some cool kind of stuff in here. Let's add in some electrical lights, and we'll do like some shoddy kind of wiring along the walls. Yeah, I think we'll do something like this. And we can go into our mode here, go to the stamp tool. And I'm going to put this, here's the bunker. I'm actually going to put this on the trench layer. And the reason for that is I'll be able to go underneath it in the bunker and kind of do things. Oh yeah, players passing through walls. I think you mentioned it last time. We'll have to readjust some of the walls as well. I don't know, like right here. Yes. Yep. I think it was the week before. I wasn't here last week because had no power. Yes, the last time that we streamed, you had mentioned it. I'd be interested to see how kind of plays out. Oh, so we have these little lights here. What I'm actually going to do, see, I'm going to do, I'm going to grab something like this. I'm actually going to paint it. We have a couple of different versions here. This is from interior. How this kind of stuff kind of works here. And we can change the color here a little bit more yellow. And I'll lower down the opacity a little. This will just kind of give that feeling that it's a little bit illuminated. You can also do this with an effects layer, or you can do the same kind of thing. Create an effects layer, and you can lighten these areas and fade it out. Great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do wire brush. See, here we have a couple of different. What I'll do is go back into here. I'm going to turn off our fill. So our stroke here, so that we're in normal overlap. Turn off our lighting for a moment. one. We could even do some that are kind of hanging. And we can come back in and adjust these after. Want to do maybe make this hug up here. Yeah, I like these makeshift kind of things, and I think we can actually do like grab like one of these boxes. Yeah, very cool. All right, we've gotten quite a lot accomplished now on our creation here. What do you guys think? Should we add anything else to it? Any other suggestions that we might be able to put into this? All right, well, I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to jump over and freshen up my coffee, get some more water. I'll be right back. So if you guys want to hang out, and if you guys think of anything that you'd like to add to this creation, just let me know. Throw it into the chat, and we'll see what we can create here. Otherwise, we'll move on and begin to create something new. So just hang out for a moment. I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Thanks everyone for hanging out and waiting while I took a short break there. Oh yeah, we should definitely do some foliage, huh? Some bushes and some other stuff. So let's do that as well. Ah, thank you so much. Oh yeah, the new dice. It's in the test channel. If you guys want to check it out, I can kind of demonstrate some of it as well. I got it all loaded up here. So why don't we do add in a little bit of foliage over here, and then we'll look at some of that stuff in addition. Got this guy, and I'm gonna go on to this painting area here. And we can grab some additional kind of elements as well. I like to layer these on top of each other. Makes it kind of feel as though that there is lots of different plants all kind of cohabitating. And this is one of my favorite ones as well. I love to use these along edges of things like this, or sticking out from underneath. Maybe we'll grab a couple of trees. Something like this. And then we can grab our little shadow brush here. Or we can even do it with our adjust colors. Very cool. And I think that that one we can call complete. A nice little area here. So yeah, let's check out some of this dice stuff if you guys want to. There's lots of different. Here we have like our default bit, and this is all just based off of the color dice. We have little emblems that will tell you whether you can color them or not. And so we have things like gold ones, as you can see. Move this right out of the way. And it's still a work in progress, so that certain things will be adjusted. But you can see that these have quite a lot of texture to them to simulate metal. But if we get into some of the other ones, we have some nice like particle effects. Some cool stuff. Let's see, we have lots of trails and different types of elements and whatnot. Cool stuff. Yeah, lots of fun things kind of coming your guys' way. Yeah, it should be exciting. We'll be able to produce. Yeah, yeah, works on all of the dice. And we'll be able to add in lots and lots of new types of dice. Lots of really cool and interesting stuff. Um, so it should be a pretty exciting new addition. And you can actually change. So if you were, some of these are completely adjustable. Again. Oh yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. Question: is there going to be a new dice skin with each art pack? Not currently, no. They're going to be two separate kind of things. Yeah, and there's talk about all kinds of ways to implement them in lots of cool and interesting ways. So it should be pretty exciting. Yeah, very cool. Not that I'm aware of, Raven Master, but I don't really handle any of that stuff, so I have no idea how the implementation is going to be going. Yes, that is. So the question is, can players buy their own dice packs and bring them to use in the game? And that is yes, they can. So this is all accessible inside of the game itself, and you can see we can change them on the fly. So anything that you have access to, as far as the dice packs go, whether you're a player or the GM, you'll be able to implement that. Oh yeah, well things like that will be available in the future. And so the comment is a way of getting a natural 20 more exciting, like a small explosion graphic. But yes, that's all things that could very easily be done in the future once all of this stuff kind of gets implemented and solid. No, I don't believe so. I'm not exactly sure what the prices are going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be very reasonable. That's correct. So it's based off of a completely individual. Yeah, so the pack will have a bunch of different types of dice in it. Yeah. So it's all, and you guys can go into the test channel now and check them out. Nope, nope. Everyone will be able to see your dice. So when you roll your die, for example, when you roll it in through here, it's going to get sent to everybody that's attached to the game. So everyone's going to get to see your fancy dice when you roll them in games. And there's also some talk about being able to change them on the fly. Like, for example, if you cast a fireball spell, then you could set it up so that you would immediately just cast it with like a fire die, things along those lines. But we'll see how that goes in the future. But currently, the way that it works and through the networking is that everyone gets to see your dice exactly as you have it. Yeah. Right. So your dice packs will be yours alone. And so players will be able to change their dice according to whatever they wish. Yeah, pink dice. We can make them pink. Make the text a little darker. Yeah, well, I mean that's if that's something that you feel as though is an important kind of aspect, you can certainly suggest that. We always very much take all of the feedback that we get very seriously. So anything that you guys think be a better way to implement something or a feature that you would like to see, I can't guarantee that that would always happen, but we certainly take it into consideration. Great. Yeah, so that's going to be the new dice features, and we're going to be. I think they're launching with like quite a lot of dice packs. So yeah, that's that is the generally the case for the DM is that the brunt of all of the product is on them. But I think it's a really good idea to move into products for the players themselves. I think that from my own experience, oftentimes the players kind of are left out in the ability to kind of control their environment. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how. I think that but the way that it's set up is in bundles. So, for example, one bundle will be the metal, all of the metal dice, or all of the aura dice. So each one of these is a pack, but they're all bundled together. Yeah, I agree too. I'm usually the GM as well, and oftentimes all of the brunt of everything falls on the GM, which I think isn't always the best case scenario, but it does tend to be that way. Yeah, so Like when you buy the bundle, the bundle will be all of the metal dice, for example, or all of the aura dice, and that's why they're categorized as they are here. Anyway, yeah, let's move on. So that's a little sneak preview. If you guys want to check out some of the new dice, you can switch over to a test channel and see how that new system is going to be implemented. Great. Well, let's continue on here. We'll start to create a new image. So, oh yeah, well that may be something that happens as well. I mean, I could definitely see like special dice coming out with. I want to create all kinds of cool, unique dice sets for particular things that we could definitely kind of add into areas. I would like to see like special dice for like the Fallout RPG and whatnot and things like along those lines. Yeah, for sure. I agree. So what should we create next, guys? Does anyone have any suggestions on what to be made? Ooh, H.R. Geiger inspired. That's kind of cool. You mean like something from like Alien? Like an alien environment like that? All biomechanical? We can definitely do something along those lines. We are we talking about an interior location? I guess I'm not exactly sure what you mean by intrusive. The question is, does the dice thing also mean whole dice can be reskinned in a more intrusive way, like metal rose style? Not exactly sure what that is. But yes, what it means is that we can reskin the dice in a multitude of different ways. And I actually went through and I made all new models for for the dice themselves. So it's brand new models, linked all up with a much more streamlined kind of creation process for textures. Yeah, well, we can do all kinds of crazy stuff now that we have the system implemented. And we'll see how far that we can kind of push the system to get the coolest kind of stuff. Yeah, we can do transparencies and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so like a hive. Yeah, sure. We can create something like that. I'll just create a new image record here. We'll drag this out. So we can do this a whole bunch of different ways. Are you thinking? Um, are you thinking like it's a hive in a natural environment, or is it going to be a hive that's kind of created in a more industrial area? Maybe inside of like a what's the environment going to be like? Why don't we do like a natural kind of environment? I think that would be kind of cool. We can do the contrast between the biomechanical and like rocks and stuff. So I can close this down now. What I'll actually do is move into my painting area over here, and we'll open up our assets. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we'll do something. We'll do like a mixture of different stuff. We can kind of blend the elements together. So let's I'm gonna go into the desert art pack. Grab one of these backgrounds, I think, something like this. And what I'm actually going to do is let's turn off our stroke, and I'm going to move into a rectangle here. We can actually use this as well. This is like a rock texture, but it works really good for like skin and stuff. Then I have some really cool textures in the fantastic ships. So we can just drag out a nice little section here. And what we can actually do, I'm going to change this, something like that. And we'll lower down the opacity of it. One of the great things about using these fills that now I can just kind of snap this to the grid. And we can change this to any size we wish here. Maybe make this size, and we have this nice like rocky kind of texture here. Now I can move into here, and I'm actually going to adjust these colors. I'm going to darken this up a little bit. And actually, you know what? Let's remove some of the red and some of the green. We'll make it a little bit bluier, like this. That'll work really well. And I'm actually going to let's rotate it. Yeah, like that. That looks pretty good. And this image here, I'm actually going to grab this and I'm going to drop it down in breaks one of these. I want to use that over and over again. The same with this one, so I'm just going to grab it and drop it down there so I don't have to keep looking for it over again. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to think about how we're going to kind of put all of this stuff together. Like what kind of environment we're going to do. We're going to do like this interior space, right? And then what we can do is we want to set up our boundaries, and we're going to be using a lot of different images in lots of different ways to kind of recreate exactly what's going on here. The next thing I'm going to do is, before we kind of get going here, is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to do that. And that's just so that all of this is kind of set up here, because I want to grab this hexadecimal code. And I'm going to hit Control C. And you can actually, if you want to, right, you could always add a link down here. We can actually put it into our chat and grab it and drop it down in here as well, so that we have a constant reference to this. If I want to change any of the rock formations or do whatever I wish, you can always grab this and get that tint information for later use, right? Like if we want to do something different here. Because when we come into if we go up here, let's go back into the desert art pack. We can go into our decorations. Here we have all of these rocks and whatnot. Yeah, yeah. And I oftentimes, now that the more and more I get accustomed to the system, the more I realize how useful this hotkey bar down here is. All of this different information. What I've been actually doing for my own campaigns is I have, like this campaign, I have where I make all my maps, and then I export them as a module. So when I import that in as a module into the campaign that I'm actually going to be running for the game, I'll have the ability to either turn off those modules or turn them back on, and I have a constant record. So if I make any adjustments to it, I can always go back to the original very, very easily. Another thing that you guys can do, and this is a really good trick, if you guys are ever in the creation process and you're not exactly sure where you want to go with your map, and you want to do some experimenting, all you have to do is to create a copy of the map itself, right? And all you have to do is grab this little icon, this little the record itself is hidden in there, is held in there, and you can just drop it in here. And what this will do, because we have an alien hive, you can see it'll make a brand new copy of that image, and then you can come in and do whatever you wish to with it. So it's always great, especially when you get to a certain point. You think of it as like a save point, and you can always then go in and make your adjustments and see what works and what doesn't work, and you don't have to worry about messing up your maps. So that's a couple little things that might help you in the long run, because believe me, I oftentimes run into an issue and then have to start over or whatnot, and using those little tips can be a lifesaver. Great. So next thing I'm going to do, I can close down this image thing now. I'll just move this over. I'm going to grab some of these, and let's go into our stamp. And again, I'm just going to hit Control V. And that's going to be a little bit off, so I'm just going to increase these visually here until I get a closer kind of representation. Yep. Yeah, this is the record icon. I forget what it's actually called, because my brain is deteriorating. But yes, and you can do the exact same thing with anything in your game whatsoever, right? So if we have an NPC, you can just grab this and drop it in here, and it will make a record of it. And then you can unlock it and do whatever you wish to with it. You can do it with stories or whatever. It makes a complete copy of it. Yeah. Yep. And that way you can, what I often will do is, and you can do, there's so many different ways that you can kind of, the systems in Fantasy Grounds are very robust, so there's so many different ways that you can kind of approach any of them. But what you can do is you can actually create variations of different maps that way in a really easy, manageable way. You can create your base map, and then let's say if you wanted to do like a building and have it also destroyed, or this, or whatever it is that you want to change in that, you can make copies of it and then do any sort of adjustments that you want to it, add different elements to it. And so you're basically using that as a base by which you can consistently build new things. And if you wanted to get into the XML file, you can actually change the graphics, like what walls are painted out and all kinds of stuff. But that's probably something that we'll talk about on a different. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use some of these things, and I'm going to grab this hexadecimal code, because this is the one that I'm going to use for my actual run. And I'm just going to paint out, I'm just going to stamp out like a little section in here that we're going to build up for like our hive. Well, actually, you know what I want to do? I want to separate these. I do. So I'm going to different layer. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to create a new painting layer. And I'm just going to build out a little bit of a simple kind of structure here. Well, so we'll have like these areas in through here, and then I can come back down in here and I can grab this, and let's make our round big enough to base all of this here. So cool. We're going to do this kind of environment in here. Well, let's move some of this stuff around a little bit. And up a little. And this is just going to be my rough kind of creation. I can grab some of these other rocky kind of elements. And again, we can just do this. Now you can do this, and an easier way to probably do this would be to do it on a layer level. Rather than all of these individual things here. We're just creating a pretty structure. Not that big of a. We were going to be building a rather larger element here. Up a couple things around, and we can change some of these parameters here. Yeah, that'll work pretty good for our base kind of structure here. And now we can do all kinds of cool little detailed things. This will be like our hive little areas in through here. And we're going to make this look very biomechanical, or as much as we can without having specific elements that are designed for that. But one of the cool things that we can do with our creation process is using these new painting tools. And we're able to let's turn off our fill, and we're going to go into the stroke area over here. One of the things that we can do with the stroke and creating a line of something is we can duplicate an image over and over again, which is a lot of what that biomechanical stuff kind of looks like, right? And finding an image that is going to kind of fit what we want to do with it. And we're going to, by doing it in a few different layers, right, we can kind of add a lot of elements to that. So let's just name these before we get too far. Ground, rocks, bio. And let's go into our fantastic ships. And here we have some of these neat kind of like shapes and whatnot. Now we're going to have to make some adjustments to this kind of stuff. But we can use these in lots of interesting ways, I think, kind of duplicate or create the stuff that we're kind of thinking of, this kind of stuff. Now this isn't exactly very Geiger-esque, but we can do a lot with it, I think. Now one of the things that what I'm talking about here is like duplicating something over and over again with the stroke layer. Let's see here. Let's find something like this. So if I drag and drop this in here, right, this is not necessarily designed to be line mode, and I'm just going to come over here to kind of demonstrate this. Yep, yeah, like chitin. But see, we can drag this out. And we can create some really cool kind of effects this way. We want this. So what we can do is kind of, and then if we change the size of it, we can create multiple different ways that we can kind of do this. And if we do it with a circle, for example, we can start to see how this is going to build up in particular ways, right? So and begin to create that repeating kind of thing. By doing this in multiple layers, I think that we'll be able to achieve a pretty good representation. Now, if I was going to do this, delete these kind of like, but if I was going to do this in a real fashion, the first thing I would do is get a reference photo of some of those Geiger-esque like places. But we'll just kind of wing it and create a reasonable facsimile here. We got about a half hour or so left with the stream, so we'll just kind of a little bit. Now, what we want to do is we want to have a good amount of contrast between our certain. Can you elongate shell 7 and change its color? Yeah, can. Sure. You could do exactly the same kind of thing if you were going to do a stroke here. So all you do is you turn off your aspect lock ratio. You could do, are you thinking about doing it? Because you could rotate it this way. Maybe make it more narrow. You can change its color to whatever you wish. And then or if you rotate it this way, get something like this. So you can see how much you can, and if you wanted to make it even wider, right? If you hold down Shift, you'll maintain your ratio. Yeah, and so what I think what we'll do is create. We'll kind of get going here. We'll get it started today, and then we'll in the future next week we'll be able to up here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit lighter in the background here. So we have a little bit more contrast to work with. This is kind of dark, a little bit too dark for what we're trying to achieve. So I'm just going to hold down R, G, and B, and we'll lighten this up a little bit. Well, maybe we'll darken it a little. We'll have it something. I think this will be better for it. See kind of what's going. Yeah, it'll be a fun little creation process because there'll be a lot of stuff that we'll need to make adjustments on as we go and kind of figure things out. And this is kind of one of my favorite ways to approach the creation process. So let's make this a bit smaller here. Right, we're going to go back into our line. So let's say we want to do like a section in here. Well, we can do it from this. I think we can. And I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift, drag it out from the middle here. Oh, I don't want to do it on that other layer, this layer, because I'll show you how we can make further adjustments to it after the fact. So we can go Shift Alt and we can drag this out. And we're going to change this. We'll make this like probably make that a bit smaller even. And then what we can do is change its shape here a little bit so it's not so. We want it to fit the rocks a little bit more than. And I think we can go in, grab our eraser, and just out section here. I think we'll bend it around the corner here a little bit. We'll just make adjustments. And what you can also do in this is you can create a fade on these as well, right? So if we were to do that, let me just demonstrate over here. Fade in these edges. So we can do all kinds of really cool adjustments along these. Which we might actually want to replace this. Bigger. Yeah, that's going to work. Our base. And hopefully you guys can see how unbelievably robust the creation tool does require a little bit of, ingenuity at times. But because the system is so well thought out and designed, it just allows you so much creative process uh, with the tools themselves. And then we can actually begin to and I'm actually going to grab this hexadecimal code as well, copy that, drag that right down into. If we go into, I think, some of these fills, we have some really cool, like, scaly fills and whatnot. And we can use this to create some really cool shapes and designs. I think I'm going to turn that off, or fill here. Fade up. Like that. That. And we'll create effects layer here. We'll just throw in some quick shadows. But we'll also do like specular highlights to make things look like they're wet. Like this. give our environment here a little bit of dimension. And we can go back into here. And so what I can do now is I can just grab this little sample and it'll grab that and exactly duplicate it. And then I can come. Yeah, I like this idea that we have this like rocky underneath, and these things begin to like build up. Yeah, yeah, I think it's going to be cool too. So let's see, we're going to stream for about another 15 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, or if there's anything that I can help you guys with, please. If I ever do anything too during the stream, I try to always remember to tell you exactly what I do with my short keys. But if I ever do something, you're not exactly sure what I did, let me know. So we can also do another adjust color. We can do this to create some specular highlights. So let's create a new one. And again, we'll go into adjust colors. And this, we're going to up our brightness a lot here. And we'll like that, excuse. So let's say we want to make something look a little bit shiny. Okay, well, let's take for example like so here we'll do some little spots here. We can do this with painting as well, and then we can blur this out to whatever is just about something like that. They should be smaller. Very cool. See here, this is going to add that glossiness. Might even want to do a or you could even do like puddles and stuff. That would be cool, right? Some sort of fluid. What we can do is on these lower paintings, we can do, like let's say if this was going to be like an egg room, whatever, do like create some little tendrils and things out. Turn off our fill, and we stroke. Angles, I think, are a little bit round them out. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, we can. Well, I can show you how to create anything. Um, Especially in the new system, you can use. So let's say something like slime and ooze, something along those lines, right? We can we can create that in a way that it's all about um, the aesthetic of the image itself rather than having a pre-created kind of element. Here, let me show you what I mean. Let's let's just go back into our painting. I'm going to turn off the stroke here. Turn fill back on, but I'm going to use color fill, and we can. I guess it doesn't matter that it's rotated, but let's say we're going to do what like a orangey kind of slime area. Right? Grab this. Well, let's do a circle. I'll create a new painting layer too, just in case. So, and then let's add to it. We'll do like a little, like the classic kind of rounded element here. So how are we going to change this into looking like slime, right? Well, this is just regular fill. It's quite bright. So why don't we come in here and let's darken it up a little bit here. So what we're going to do is if we want it to be like a puddle, like if it's indented into the ground, or if we want to make it look like it's like an ooze, where it's like sitting on top, it's like rounded and whatnot. We're going to do that just with shadows and highlights. And then we can add a little bit of texture to this and create some, maybe add some bubbles to it and what. So it's more about the creation process inside of Fantasy Ground. So here, what we'll do is we can do exactly the same kind of thing. I'm gonna separate this out. We might leave this in. We might remove it, but we'll just do this for like a demonstration. So again, I can go into my adjust colors, and then we can go into the effects here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow to it, right? And we want it to be like sitting on the floor itself. We can cast this shadow, and depending on how much we want this to feel like it's raised up, it's going to determine that. And then we can go into the other one, right? And we want to have like these kind of like highlights on it. Now, obviously, I would do this a little bit differently. Uh, we could spend a little of it like arm one right here. That out a little bit. Right, so here's a really basic kind of understanding of how this is going to go, and then we could go on this particular. I think it's this. Let me just rename this. So here we have like this blob of slime. It kind of looks a little bit cartoony right now, and that's because of the drastic and simplistic um, exaggerations of what we're trying to achieve. But now we can go. Let's go into our stamp mode here. I'll grab this, and I'm going to use it first. Lower down the opacity here a little. And we'll use it first as like a highlight here. Some of these areas. Create a little bit more shadow here. And it's going to need a little bit extra along here. So we're going to lower down that opacity. And we'll do a little bit in some of these areas here. And you can see how the more we add to this, the more it's going to start to feel like an actual ball of slime there. Then I would grab some texture. So let's go into the winter art package. And we'll go into our effects here, and I'm going to grab this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab this color. And I'm going to lower down its opacity a bit. Give it a little bit more texture here. And then we can our tint here, and we can make it a little bit more brighter. Yeah, you can see how easy it is. You can actually use this as a pretty amazing kind of drawing tool. Now this is for like a blob of slime that's kind of like sitting up on there, and then you can actually come back in and you can adjust the shape. You don't want it to be completely rounded like. Change the shape here. Yep, exactly. So all you would have to do, and I think that that's what we can do next time. Yeah, we can do exactly that. And what we'd actually do, you'd probably also want to leave a little shadow on that edge too. And some of these angular bits, you'd want to come in and adjust. You want it to be a little bit more rounded. Yep, exactly. So you can see how really you can create anything you want to inside of Fantasy Grounds with very little amount of art, like pre-made art packs. In fact, you can create whole maps just with the painting fills. So yeah, very very cool. And because this is all on one particular layer here, now you can just grab this and you could move it around. Obviously, the effects layers aren't going to move with it, but that is a pretty good demonstration, I think, of how that stuff works. But what we'll do is next time we'll actually do the opposite. We'll create some little puddles indented into the ground. I'll show you guys how to do that. Basically, exactly like you said, it's just all about how you do the shading. We usually create the pool of whatever it is a little bit transparent. You can see some of that stuff underneath, but then we can add like some water effects to it and whatnot, make it undulate a little bit, have a little bit of ripples to it and whatnot to also help distinguish from surrounding area. But yeah, very cool. We'll continue this map next time. We'll really bring it to fruition and create some really cool alien-esque environment. Super fun. Great, guys. Well, is there any other question? Last call for questions before I kind of shut down here. Oh yeah, definitely. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you get access to all of the official art packs. So everything that I've created, and also all of the themes that I put out so far. So I think, in my estimation, it's an excellent deal. But and so it's thousands upon thousands of images. Be able to create your heart's content. Yeah. But thank you so much for joining me. Any other questions? Anything that I can help you guys with before I take off? Oh, you're so very welcome. I'm so happy to hear that. And I will be here again on Saturday. I'm here every Saturday. From about 3 p.m. Eastern time, and we run till like 5:30 or 6, depending on what we're doing. So they go in the forge. The question is, there a place, and you can do your own maps and share them on the forge as well. All of these maps can be exported as a module, and you can do that there. They don't. So if you create a map using official map packs and whatnot, they won't have any of the image information. The person has to have those map packs to use the maps, but you're more than welcome to share them with other people that do. And all of the maps that we create here do eventually end up on the Forge, where you can download them for free. I think there's like 30 or 40 maps up there so far that I put up, and I have a whole bunch more ready to go. Great, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I so enjoy these streams. I will be here in a week. This coming Saturday at 3 p.m. We're going to finish up this map. We're going to make a super cool alien environment and finish that. And then we'll probably go on to make something else. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you all next time. Have a great week.